The night was calm, the waves gentle, and the Pacific stretched endlessly in every direction. It looked like any other night during the war, yet somewhere in that vastness moved a ship that carried the weight of history itself. Its steel body cut through the waters silently, its lights dimmed to avoid the eyes of enemies lurking in the dark. On board, the crew went about their duties, unaware that they were part of a mission so secret, so critical, that not even most of them knew the truth of what they carried. This was the USS Indianapolis. To the world, she was just another heavy cruiser in the American fleet, a ship that had seen its share of battle, a warhorse of the Pacific campaign. But on this journey, she bore a burden that would forever change history. Locked deep within her hold was a wooden crate, guarded at all times, its contents known only to a handful of officers. It wasn't just cargo, it was a weapon unlike anything mankind had ever unleashed before. Inside lay the core components of the atomic bomb, Little Boy, the weapon that would soon be dropped on Hiroshima. The sailors whispered among themselves, wondering what made this delivery so urgent. The ship was ordered to move at full speed, faster than most cruisers ever attempted, with no escort to protect her. She raced across the ocean, day and night, like a messenger carrying a terrible secret. For many of the crew, it was just another voyage in the endless grind of war. For history, it was the moment that would mark the beginning of the end. The Indianapolis reached Tinian Island on July 26, 1945, completing her mission in record time. The mysterious crate was offloaded under the strictest security, and the sailors never saw what became of it. Their orders were simple: deliver and leave. They didn't know that what they had carried was the deadliest weapon ever built, the bomb that would obliterate a city and end countless lives. With her mission complete, the Indianapolis was given new orders. She was to sail toward the Philippines to prepare for further operations. For the crew, it felt like routine duty. They had no idea that their greatest trial was about to begin, not against the Japanese fleet, not against enemy planes, but against the unforgiving ocean itself. The ship left Tinian and cut through the Pacific once more. The days were hot, the nights long. Some sailors played cards, others wrote letters home. Many thought the war was nearly over. Whispers spread that Japan could not hold out much longer. Victory felt close, almost within reach. Yet in war, danger often comes when least expected. On the evening of July 29, 1945, the Indianapolis sailed alone through the Philippine Sea. No escort, no destroyers to screen her, only her steel hull and the vigilance of her crew. Unknown to them, an enemy stalked in the dark waters ahead. The Japanese submarine I-58, commanded by Michitsuru Hashimoto, had been patrolling the area. Its crew scanned the waves, waiting for prey. And then, through the periscope, they spotted the silhouette of a large American warship cutting through the moonlit waters. A perfect target. Aboard the Indianapolis, life carried on as usual. Sailors rotated shifts, some went below to sleep in their bunks, while others stood watch on deck. The hum of the engines echoed through the ship. To the men, it was just another night. They had survived so many battles already: shells, planes, kamikaze strikes. What could touch them now in this endless ocean? But fate had chosen this night. At 12:14 a.m., as the ship moved at over 17 knots, Hashimoto gave the order. Torpedoes slipped from the tubes of I-58 and sliced silently through the water. They left no sound, no warning, just a trail of death rushing toward the unsuspecting cruiser. On the deck of the Indianapolis, a few sailors caught sight of a white streak cutting across the waves, too fast to be anything natural. A shout went up: "Torpedo! Torpedo off the starboard bow!" But the warning came too late. In the blink of an eye, the ocean erupted. The explosion tore through the Indianapolis with devastating force. The first torpedo struck near the bow, sending a column of water and fire high into the night sky. A second slammed into the ship's side, igniting fuel and ammunition. The steel giant shuddered violently, alarms blaring as chaos spread across the decks. Men were thrown from their bunks, tossed like ragdolls as bulkheads ruptured. Darkness filled the compartments below as power failed. Smoke and fire swallowed the ship. Those on deck barely had time to understand what was happening. Within moments, the proud cruiser, once the fastest in the fleet, was mortally wounded. Captain Charles McVeigh rushed to the bridge, trying to assess the damage, but the truth was already clear: the Indianapolis was dying. She had no time left. In just 12 minutes, the great warship rolled and slipped beneath the waves, swallowed whole by the ocean she had ruled for years. Hundreds of men went down with her, trapped in compartments or dragged under by the suction of her sinking. Screams filled the night as oil and debris spread across the water. The survivors, thrown into the sea with only life vests or scraps of wreckage to cling to, found themselves suddenly alone in the vast Pacific. At first, many believed rescue would come quickly. After all, the Navy always tracked its ships, didn't it? But in the confusion of war's final days, the Indianapolis had vanished without notice. No distress call was received. No one knew she was gone. 900 men had gone into the water. What awaited them was not just the struggle against thirst and exhaustion, but a terror few had ever imagined. As dawn broke, the survivors saw the scale of their plight. The sea stretched endlessly, no ship in sight. The sun blazed overhead, merciless and scorching. Salt water burned their skin and lips. Those with life vests clung to them, while others held onto planks, barrels, anything that would float. Some men had no support at all, treading water desperately to stay alive. And then came the sharks. At first, they circled at a distance, dark shadows gliding beneath the waves. The smell of blood and oil had drawn them from miles away. As the day wore on, the attacks began. Groups of sharks darted into clusters of men, pulling them under in a frenzy. Screams echoed across the water as comrades were dragged down, torn apart in front of their friends. Sailors kicked and fought, but the ocean belonged to the predators now. Hour after hour, day after day, the nightmare continued. The sun scorched them by day, and the cold gnawed at them by night. Thirst drove some mad. Men drank seawater, their minds unraveling as salt poisoned their bodies. Some hallucinated, believing they saw ships on the horizon or islands within reach, only to vanish into the deep when they tried to swim towards salvation. The strong tried to comfort the weak. Small groups huddled together, sharing what little hope they had left. But as hours turned into days, hope began to die. Each sunrise brought fewer men alive, each night claimed more souls. By the fourth day, fewer than half remained. Of the nearly 900 who had gone into the water, hundreds had already perished, from sharks, from exposure, from despair. Their bodies drifted away, claimed by the endless sea. And then, by chance, a miracle. On August 2nd, a routine patrol flight by Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn spotted an oil slick in the water. As his plane circled lower, his crew saw the shocking sight. Men, dozens, then hundreds, scattered across the sea, waving weakly for help. Gwynn immediately radioed for assistance. At last, after nearly 5 days of hell, rescue was on its way. Seaplanes dropped supplies, rafts, food, water, though many landed far from the survivors. Some pilots disobeyed orders and landed directly on the ocean, risking their own lives to pull men aboard. Destroyers and rescue ships raced to the scene. When they finally arrived, they found the survivors burned, blistered, dehydrated, and half mad with suffering. Of the 1,196 men who had sailed on the Indianapolis, only 316 were rescued alive. The rest had vanished into the Pacific, lost to fire, water, and sharks. The tragedy shocked the Navy and the nation. Never before had an American warship been lost so quickly, with so many left helpless in the sea for so long. Questions were asked. Why had no one noticed the ship was overdue? Why had there been no escort to protect her? Why were the men left to suffer for nearly a week before rescue came?